DUI has officially announced that the much anticipated redenomination that was voted on and passed just over 3 months ago will be pushed off until August of this year to focus on core priorities. Core priorities such as light hotspots and the rollout of the 5G network model. The announcement cites some additional surprises to the development team as they began to work on the implementation of this HIP. Fixing these newfound implementation issues were estimated to take several months of development time, rather than the original estimated few weeks. I can't say I am surprised, but I am somewhat disappointed, as this has been one of the most anticipated HIPs that was voted on to date, and the reprioritization of this HIP may continue to be pushed as it does not serve any real network function. However, a vote would be needed in order for HIP39 to be scrapped completely. One of the authors of the HIP, JMF, also added that he supports this delay, as the other priorities should be at the top of the development team's to-do list. With many stakeholders in favor of this HIP being implemented and it becoming more and more complicated to implement as time goes on, the future of HIP39 is still not certain. Let's take a look at the details in today's video. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video here in the Crypto Compound channel. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope you guys are having a great day. Please hit that like and subscribe on the way in. It really helps support the channel and I would really appreciate it. Today's video, we are going to be discussing the most recent official update from the DUI regarding HIP39, the redenomination, and the time frame associated with getting this implemented. As we can see here, this was the original vote. Vote closed November 20th, and as we can see, it passed with above 66% in favor of this vote, so it was officially passed. If we fast forward about 3 months, we can see here, DUI supports the recommendation to move the HNT redenomination to August in order to focus on core priorities. Now, we're going to talk about all the different aspects and opinions here from certain members of the community in this channel, as well as some of the moderators with their input regarding some background as to how this decision came about, as well as JMF, who is one of the authors of the original HIP39 redenomination HIP, and some of his thoughts. Now, guys, with regards to the wording here in this announcement, there are some interesting things. As we can see, they explain that they encountered some new issues once the development team started to really dig with regards to the implementation. They say the solutions to some of these new issues range from reworked libraries and resources for community apps to reworked blockchain Oracle code and payment transactions. Due to these discoveries, the time estimate for the implementation of this HIP has ballooned from an estimated few hours to roughly a month of engineering time. They then, of course, cite the reprioritization of this HIP after discovering the new amount of time that it would take, and they say this allows core developers to maintain their focus on light hotspots and the continued development of 5G. Furthermore, this ensures that network users continue to have the best experience possible and encounter no surprises through the redenomination process. They also do provide some insight as to what future votes might look like, as they mention that some implementation code might be required before any HIPs are actually voted on, and they also really seem to support the idea of temperature check votes, similar to HIP42 temperature check vote, rather than going on and voting on these things right away. As we know, this vote, now that it has been passed, it is still supposed to happen, and in order for it not to happen, there will have to be a new vote raised in order to support the continued work to implement this HIP. So as of right now, it should still be happening. It's just getting deprioritized and is really getting delayed now until officially August. Now, if we move over here to the HIP39 channel on the Discord, we begin to see some of the community members discussing how they feel, particularly about this delay in timeline and this deprioritization of this HIP. And we do have some very important moderators and people that are very close to Helium Inc. here, providing some very important input, which we will go through. Now, a lot of people began to express how they were very upset and they feel as though they were misled with regards to the scope of the work being minor. And now, me personally, I don't think it's reasonable to say that we were misled. I think, of course, things come up when you are trying to implement something that is as complicated as this redenomination. And there was some back and forth here in the Discord with regards to that. And as you can see, Keenan here, a moderator, says, push back a few months to work on something more pressing. Not sure what the big deal is. Now, as people began to say that they're beginning to think that it is less and less likely for this HIP to ever be implemented, Raw Man here says, I think you underestimate how many large stakeholders in the ecosystem are strongly in favor of HIP39. But it is true that the longer it's delayed, the harder it gets, as more newly created systems will have to be reworked to support the change. This is why HIP39 was always a tough proposition. It gets harder to implement over time. Now, I 100% agree with that statement, and I also really do believe that there are many really big stakeholders of HNT and in the ecosystem that are in favor of this HIP39. However, of course, we need a working network. We need the network to continue to evolve and grow and be built out rather than worrying about this redenomination, as it doesn't really have any critical network function tied to it. Of course, we have Keenan here, the moderator, says, I'd rather have a working network with light hotspots than a redom, but that's just me. Now, a little bit later in the chat, JMF chimes in with his opinion with regards to this announcement. He says, I wanted the community to know that I support the decision to delay HIP39. It's not ideal, but there are clear priorities for the network right now, especially launching a 5G proof of coverage model and light hotspots. He then makes the point to say, we all know the network is at an inflection point. The extra work needed to implement 39 would delay work on light hotspots and 5G proof of coverage. So it's a clear-cut decision in my opinion. I totally agree here with JMF. Although I am very disappointed that this HIP continues to get kicked down the road, I do understand and I do see the value in working on the actual critical functions of this network. At the end of the day, these are really going to be the value drivers of the network, and we need them to work, and we need the developers to be spending their majority of their time getting those things online. That being said, with the $200 million funding round that was just closed, I find it hard to believe that Helium Inc. themselves are not willing to maybe hire a new team of developers with this newfound funding that they have. I would really be curious to know why they can't cut out a budget of a few $100,000 a year and get a few more developers online and working on some more of these maybe less prioritized projects. Helium's CEO and founder here, Amir Halim, also chimes in and he says, well, at the time, everyone complained that there were bigger things to focus on, and we agreed, so we've been focusing on those. Now, that's a really interesting take from Amir, and I don't know if I completely agree. However, it is very clear that these HIPs and these votes need to have some sort of timeline associated with them. Somebody here actually recommends there being an expiration for HIPs if they are not actually enforced and implemented by a certain date, which is very interesting. Because according to Amir here, this comment insinuates that as long as there are bigger things to focus on, we can continue to push this HIP down the road and not actually ever get to implementing it. Well, guys, I know that was a lot. There is a lot of back and forth here, a lot of frustrated people, a lot of people that were really anticipating this HIP, including myself. As I mentioned, I'm a little bit disappointed. However, I do fully support the prioritization of course, the 5G rollout and light hotspots. I also want to just say again, I would really be interested in knowing why Helium Inc. can't carve out a small budget for another few teams of developers in order to work on a few more of these development issues at the same time. I think that would be something worth looking into, especially considering, as JMF put it, the network is really approaching this inflection point. Well, guys, that is all I have for today's video. Please let me know what you guys are thinking down below. Let me know if you're as frustrated as I am, if you are okay with this, if you voted against it and don't care regardless. Let me know what you guys are thinking. I just wanted to give this update here and show you what different people in the community are saying. I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Please hit that like and subscribe if you have not already. But just like that, this video is over, and I'll see you next time.